Hi, this is Rob O'Byrne and welcome to this video series on outsourcing to de-stress, reduce your working hours and grow your business. I'm going to share some tips that I've learned over the last 8 or 9 years on outsourcing, and if you follow these, it's going to help you enormously in all of those elements of your business or number of businesses, whatever you have. You're going to be able to cut your hours down, cut down the stress, and it doesn't have to cost you a fortune. So the first thing I want to talk about is what exactly is a VA? What is a virtual assistant? Now, a lot of people are using these now, business owners and entrepreneurs, but a virtual assistant is generally known as a VA. And if you imagine someone that is working entirely for your business, they just aren't sitting in your office or wherever you're doing your business. If you're like me, I was working from the back bedroom for a couple of years. So a virtual assistant can basically do everything that an employee would sitting in your office, but they're remote, hence they're virtual. And the trend in recent years, I mean, this all started, I think, really took off in about 2007 when Tim Ferriss wrote The 4-Hour Workweek, but it was going on a few years before that. But the whole concept is that people are generally sourcing virtual assistants from overseas, not in their own country. And there's a very good reason for that. And what is that? It is cost. Wherever you may be, dollars, pounds, euros. If you just think for a moment about the cost of support staff in your own country, it can be a real struggle for business startups and small businesses. I know it was for me when I started out, and the thought of actually employing local staff at $60,000 or $70,000, it just wasn't within my reach. And so that's why I ended up working 80, 90, 100 hours a week. So virtual assistants are a great way to actually get you the support that you need to help you grow your business and for you to focus on the things that are really important. And that's looking after your customers and looking after your sales. So the concept has been around for quite a while. The early 2000s really sort of took off in the mid 2000s, 2004 up to about 2007. And now most savvy small business owners and entrepreneurs are utilizing virtual assistants. So that is exactly what a virtual assistant is. They're just like a staff member working with you, but they're remote. Where are they? Well, a lot of people use virtual assistants based in their own country, so they could be local. I'm not sure there's a huge amount of benefit in that, though, from a cost perspective. There may be some because they might be working at home. There are obviously benefits in terms of language and culture, that type of thing. Certainly some people do use locally based virtual assistants. Most, however, use overseas based virtual assistants. And the reason for that is purely the cost. And it can be as little as 10% of hiring a local person. So just think about that for a moment. What could that do for your business if you were able to get people helping you with your websites, with your marketing, taking calls, running appointments at about 10% of the cost that you would pay here? That is a phenomenal advantage, particularly in the early days of starting your business up. So if you're thinking about virtual assistants, local, sure. Offshore, generally a lot more popular for the obvious reason of cost. And then it's a question of, do you get home-based or office-based? And let me explain that. So a home-based virtual assistant is literally that. They're working at home. They're providing all of their own equipment, internet, communications, and so on. They're looking after themselves, and they're working for you virtually. I have done that. I've had a number of VAs who are home-based. I choose to actually have office-based VAs, and I'll go through in a lot of detail in a later video of why that is. But if you just start thinking for a moment, what are some of the advantages of a home base? They're probably going to be cheaper because they don't have any overhead, there's no management structure. They may not be paying things that they ought to be paying. Watch out for that. I've had home-based virtual assistants who weren't paying taxes, and you don't want to get involved in all of that sort of thing. The office-based are probably going to cost you a little bit more, but then think about the support, the redundancy factor. If they're away sick, that to me is a lot better option. So there are some positives and negatives, for either. A lot of people start with home-based and then gravitate towards an office-based, to be honest. So I think, we know what a virtual assistant is. We know why people use it, why people use the services of virtual assistants. But there's probably a nagging doubt at the back of your mind, and there often is with people, and it's about ethics. Is this really ethical? Are we merely taking jobs away from people in our local communities and sending them overseas? We're not really supporting our local community, are we? I would challenge that. I would say that through this mechanism, using virtual assistants, everybody's a winner. And I have seen that through the 8 or 10 years that I've been using virtual assistants. What it enabled me to do was to actually have support in my business early on when I needed it at a cost that I could afford. And basically, I couldn't afford to hire local people anyway. So these virtual assistants weren't taking jobs away from anybody because I couldn't afford to hire people in my own country. As the business then rolled forward, basically what is happening is that through the support of the virtual assistants, my business is growing. I can now actually afford to bring on more staff in my own country, but they're not the support staff. They're not the lower levels, lower sort of paid staff. I actually was able to hire a lot more professional staff in my business. So my professional team grew bigger, my consulting team, my training team, on the basis of having that cost-effective support in the early days. So it's actually a win-win-win. You as the business owner win because you get this boost of support, very cost-effective, that you need to actually help your business grow. The staff that you're hiring in India or the Philippines or wherever else, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of different countries of sourcing virtual assistants, they're winning because generally these are areas where people desperately want good jobs. And to be honest, you're creating employment in your local area anyway because your business is growing, and therefore you need those local professional staff to help you deliver the services. So it really is a win-win-win. And I've now had virtual assistants working as an integral part of my business for 8 or 10 years now. I could not do without them. They are fantastic workers. They allow me to do so much more in my business. They are great people to work with. They are just as much a part of my team as the people based in my local office. And in fact, they come to visit me once a year. They'll come over here, come and stay with me. I often go over to visit their office. So, it's a really very, very close relationship, and it works marvelously. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what a virtual assistant is, the options of sourcing them, why we need to do that. Let me then move on in the next video to how we actually find those virtual assistants. Where are they? How do we select them? I'll see you in the next video.